1. And with that, we should be live. Hello there, lords and ladies of the internet. Welcome back to the Council of Candor. This is episode 47. We are talking about the Clone Wars TV show from 2003 and the Multimedia project. This is going to be a real fun one. This is one of my favorite things that's happened in all of media ever, and it's one of my favorite times of Star Wars history. So this will be a great time. Before we fully get started, though, a friend of the channel has recently released a music video. You should go give him some love. I'm going to be linking it in the chat here in a second. Should have picked a better thumbnail. I should have had an end. You're right. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. We had a whole huge argument about thumbnails in the other chat. But yeah, so go check out Tokyo Frenzy. It's linked right there.
Tokyo Frenzy.
Yep, he just released a music video, and he's a friend of the channel. So go check him out if you're into I guess rap-like content. You know, I'm not super into rap, but I enjoyed the song. It was fun. So yeah, welcome. Today, though, it is Star Wars time. It is time to talk about how Star Wars used to be. Remember when we used to have fun with Star Wars chat? It was great. With me, I have my two experts on Star Wars. First up is Dez, who I think is the only person who might be more autistic about Star Wars than me. Hello, Dez.
Star Wars was my autism before history. If that says anything for people who know me for my schizophrenic rants in History Channel in your server, so we'll have a fun.
He really does like history.
I don't know about worse about you than you, because I got into the game late and got out of the game late because
Yeah, but we can compare notes later. Don't worry, buddy.
I'm sure we can compare notes and see which one of us has longer notes, and then say that our notes are actually average sized for the population.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But and then to balance things out, we have somebody who absolutely hates Star Wars. He hates fun, and he loves to kick puppies on the weekend. Our local writer, Pag. How you doing?
I do like to kick puppies. I don't actually hate Star Wars. That is a foul slur. But I definitely
whole sentence that lied.
Yeah. I'm not I can't deny the other things. The other things are, it just kind of is what it is. Sometimes a man's got to kick puppies, and for me, that sometimes means frequently, like very frequently, like at least once a week. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know all that much about Star Wars. Kid was like, "Hey, you should look this stuff up. You should watch some Star Wars content," and I was like, "Yes, will do, Chief. Salute." So here I am.
And today, chat, we're going to talk about, in my opinion, the best piece of secondary content ever made. The 2003 series that Gendy, I don't know how to say Gendy's last name. The guy who made Samurai Jack. I'm sorry, Gendy. You're a very unique person.
Or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, he worked on this with George Lucas. Google says it's Tartakovsky, so there we go. I trust you, Google, implicitly. You did guess correctly, chat. He is, in fact, born in Russia. I know, with a last name like that, I would have thought he's a good old American boy, too. But it's all right. You definitely know him from Samurai Jack. He also did Dexter's Lab, and I believe he's done Primal recently, and I believe he worked on some of the Hotel Transylvania stuff as well. That's what you can tell his character has such sharp angles and the like. He was given this task in the middle of the Cartoon Network heyday back in the middle of the 2000s. This show that he was given, the 2003 series, was meant to act as a bridge between Episode 2, The Clone Wars, and Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. The really interesting part is, this happened before in other media where they tie in things. His show was supposed to come out weekly-ish, and it was supposed to show the events in the galaxy that were happening that week in the universe. This is the first key of the Multimedia project. And oh boy, chat, if you don't know what the Multimedia project is, you're in for a treat. So
it is honestly very cool.
Yeah. So
like
Star Wars...
if you haven't, you should definitely watch it. It's definitely worth the watch. Some of the like hardest, best like action that I've seen from Star Wars comes from this. There's
You don't know the half of it. Okay. You're
Right,
He's
you're
just
right.
talking about the
probably
TV
right.
show animated for the part, not even the whole multimedia project.
But that's what I'm saying. He has no idea. He does not. He in fact does not know.
Yeah, you're probably right. But there's that internet gif of the clone trooper captain who he's got a pistol in one hand and a rifle in the other, and there's
Fordo.
a bazillion.
Say his name.
Cody. I believe he's Commander Cody.
No, Cody's the orange one. The one with the red tags is Fordo.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't.
Hashtag say his name.
They're clones. They don't have names.
Whoa!
They're made to die. Who
You
cares?
read the books. You know very well they have names.
That's true.
Dirty.
But anyway, that like extremely hard action sequence of the clone just mowing down robots with a pistol and rifle in hand, that comes from this. Very good action scenes. Highly suggested.
So that's the 2003 series, and obviously, if you've never seen it, highly recommended.
Mhm.
But this is the second of the 2 multimedia projects Lucas ever embarked on. This is something not a lot of people know about. And this was, I think, the most successful version of them. So before we get into what is a multimedia project, the idea behind the multimedia project is that you take all these disparate groups that are working on the property, so the property is Star Wars, and you have them work together on a section of the property. So the idea is, if we're going to say, guys, the next upcoming story series are going to take place between this time period and this time period, all stories should either be about that or tie in directly to stories related to this. So if we were doing a Lord of the Rings multimedia project, we would say, hey, during the events of The Hobbit, which is the next movie we're releasing, all the other characters, like what was Aragorn doing? What was Legolas doing? What was Gandalf doing? All the characters who show up a little bit in The Hobbit or who maybe are only mentioned, let's make media about them, tie them in all those situations. And instead of dumping it all directly into the movie, this is where you have things like the Gollum game would come out. And then you can play that and you learn what happened to Gollum. Or you go over here to this comic series and watch Aragorn going out and doing his questing thing. That's what the multimedia projects that were done by Star Wars are. And oh my goodness gracious, they were fantastic. The first big one was probably the one from
Comic come out around the same time.
And they had some junior novelizations, trading cards, action figures, and comics all came out. And the idea was this is taking place from between episode 5 and episode 6. And this was in 1996 that it came out. And oh boy, was this a hit. If you've ever wondered what put Star Wars Legends on the map, this was it. This came just after the Thrawn books were done, and just after, I forget the author of the Thrawn books. You remember who he is? Just had a
Timothy Zahn.
Yeah, Timothy Zahn just fixed the entirety of Legends. Beforehand, Legends was just a disparate nightmare of
It
things.
is. Yeah.
Legends before Timothy Zahn is probably one of the worst things you could ever imagine from a multimedia project, and just like
Not only that,
a setting could work. It was
not only
horrible.
that, like it's so weird to think about because like it comes out at the same time, but like with the Thrawn trilogy alongside it, they were doing what's the other comic that they were doing, and even that was tying in with like multiple comics because Tales of the Jedi's referenced it. What's it called? Something Empire. It's where Palpatine comes
Heir to the
back.
Empire.
No, not the Thrawn trilogy. It's the one where because Heir to the Empire is Thrawn. I'm talking about the one with Palpatine where he comes back. That happens like a
Star
few years
Wars
later.
Is it Dark Empire, maybe?
Dark Empire. Thank you.
Shadows
Yes.
of the Empire. It's one of those two.
It's Dark Empire. It's Dark Empire.
Yeah.
Shadows of the Empire is the multimedia project.
it's one of those
Somehow,
two.
Palpatism returned.
Yeah.
Not only that, well, you're
it's
not even.
horrible.
Not only that, there's also a new Super Star Destroyer that also works as a Death Star, and there's like 5 different. It falls into all the tropes of why before Timothy Zahn a lot of the book sucks because like there's 5 different new like super weapons that the Empire was developing this whole time. By the way, guys, and they've had this in their back pocket. Like it's
And there's, what, 7 or 9 clones, I forget, of the Emperor. Or was it 13?
there's a lot. They go
Yeah,
through
there's
quite a few.
Yeah,
And the
Emperor
only way
comes
that
back all the
no
time.
no no, and the only way the Emperor gets stopped is because he goes into a Jedi robot, and the Jedi robot dies with the Emperor trapping inside. Because he tries to go into Jason, which, if you know anything about future Legends, maybe that would have been the worst thing if he went into Jason. We just dealt with him there. It would have been the worst, scenario.
Jason was Han and Leia's kid.
Yeah, because
things happen.
funnily enough, that's the story. No, that's where he was trying to go into Anakin, because Jason and Jaina were already alive. So he would have gone into Anakin, and that would have solved literally nothing.
Yeah, but we'll get into that.
Because Jason and Jaina is heir to the Empire. That's
we'll
what
get
Thrawn
into, we'll get into
where
them in that's future stuff. But the idea is Timothy Zahn fixed the Star Wars canon. He tied it back down because it was just all over the place. There was like magic dragons that you could ride in their mouth through outer space, which, sure, anything went. Once he tied it down, though, they realized, hey, by taking this seriously and by actually having some quality control here, we can actually get some traction here. Fans will be interested in this, and that's when they did the Heir to the Empire. And that's when they came with Shadows of the Empire, where they had the whole multimedia project set around this, were all the games, all that coming out. And it did phenomenally well. Lucas fell in love with the concept. And from there, that's where we get the Clone Wars multimedia project. Unlike everything else, this was way more planned out. The Clone Wars multimedia project really took place over everything. It was just so nice because the idea was we had the comic creators involved, we had the books involved, and every week that passed was supposed to be with either a comic, a game, or a novel was covering that week in the Clone Wars, and it for the most part
Not only
did a
that-
really good job. Go ahead.
Not only that, but like it goes beyond just it goes beyond the Clone Wars, because even if you look back at with the prequels, it's the whole prequels, because they had they start. I think it's Star Wars 1999 is the comic that starts, and that runs until that comic series then turns into Star Wars Republic when we get to 2 through it's 1 through 2 is Star Wars Republic, and even then I think Star Wars 1999 starts with like pre-episode 1 to like episode 1 to 2, and then goes to Star Wars Republic from episode 2 to 3, and then after that it turns into Star Wars Dark Times from 3 to 4 before Disney shuts it down. So I mean, like, on the comic side, they were doing stuff even back then. Of course, the book side, they were also doing plenty of stuff to tie into the movies. It's only really the show, and of course, video games. They were adding video games between 1 and 2. So it's mainly the show that they added. But in terms of multimedia, I mean, they were doing it.
That's actually where you're slightly wrong, Des. The comics were allowed to be like kind of whatever stories they wanted to tell. They were like you were correct. They started beforehand and they were telling stories as they went along. They slowed the comics down though, and they said, "Hey, we're going to explore battles in detail. We want to go, over the war, and we're covering the galaxy-wide thing." That was the key aspect here. Is for the 3 years you would know every single thing that happened within reason that in the time period. You had several of the best video games come out. Battlefront came out during this time period. The Republic Commando game came out during this time period. The Republic Commando novels came out during this time period. Which is the Republic Commando is its own mini multimedia project within this multimedia project. It was just.
I definitely will say that the games definitely had a major quality increase from like the episode 1 to 2, because like you get a few really good ones. I personally still have a very strong place in my heart for Battlefront 2 and some of the unique maps that it has over Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 is obviously better, but Battlefront 1 still had like Renvar peak. I love Renvar. But still.
I just loved running around as a Jedi and or Sith and slicing people down. So those games were part of the multimedia project?
Yes, they were. And
what's the Republic Commando game? Was that part of it as well?
Yep.
It was, and I highly recommend picking that up. It's like $1 or $2 on Steam sometimes.
Yeah. If it's on sale, it's like $1 or $2, and it's worth it. That game's pretty awesome.
And then there was tie-in novels, and they had tie-in comics to the tie-in novels, and the tie-in comics and novels had tie-in short stories as well as tie-in trading cards, just on the Republic Commando side of the whole thing. The unfortunately, due to some delays, not all the books came out on time. But the 7 novels that were given the Clone Wars section were Shatterpoint, Legacy of the Jedi, The Cestus Deception, MedStar 1, Battle Surgeons, MedStar 2, Jedi Healer, Jedi Tile, Yoda Dark Rendezvous, and the young adult Boba Fett book series with Escape from
Dude, I
Dagobah
love that
well.
as a kid. I'm gonna be honest. I love that as a kid.
Yeah. They all came out
I
around the
was
same
up in
time.
the library.
The Republic Commando books Hard Contact came out, but unfortunately they got delayed. The rest of them got delayed till after it happened. So so that's 000, True Colors, Order 66, and the rest of them. They came out after, but they were supposed to come out at the same time. There were several short stories listed, which I'm not going to go into, as well as multiple comic series. You can check out Star Wars Insider, which is a magazine at the time that had a whole bunch of stuff, and you could find them online still. There's several collections and compilations of this stuff that happened. There's a huge amount of games that came out. So the Clone Wars game came out as well. Bounty Hunter came out at the same time. Then
that was a great game.
Bounty Hunter is another fantastic game. Then Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds came out, which is phenomenal. Then Jedi Starfighter, which is one of the better space combat shooter games of the year. And then right as Episode 3 was coming out was the Episode 3 game, which is an absolute banger of a tie-in game as well.
That's rare.
Well as I believe 700 different toys that also came out during this time period. Never mind all the Legos that tied into it.
Well, I don't know about Lego because Lego was not.
Lego
wasn't
not the Lego games, the Lego sets.
I'm just saying, like the Lego set wasn't. It wasn't getting off the ground. Plus, the Lego game actually did come out around the same time. The original Star Wars, which was the prequel trilogy of 1, 2, and 3.
But not during this time. It came out just after this. It came out after Episode
3.
Lego Star Wars was a banger of a game.
I'm pretty sure Lego Star Wars came out before. Let me double check that.
Yeah, I remember Lego Star Wars being a ton of fun.
Like the original Lego Star Wars, not of course the complete saga or like the one doing 4, 5, and 6, but Lego Star Wars.
It came out in 2005, so which is just after Episode.
Well, no,
3.
Episode 3 came out in 2005, so that's the same year. I think it came out
you want to get really anal, boy? It came out on March.
I do want to get anal
because it came out on March 29th, which is a few days after, because it released on March 20th. So bite me, sir.
Okay, I want to double check.
Yeah. So while Dev's over smoking his peace pipe,
look, I was 9 days off. It's not that big of a difference. Plus,
I said it came out after, and you argued with me.
It was 9 days. It's like, come on.
But it's not part of the. It's not part of the project. Is the point? This was.
Oh yeah, it's not part of the project.
My point is, this was hundreds of toys. At least I think 60 comics came out. I think it was 49 of them came out. That's what it was. Came out in this time period. 6 games.
Comics are
20
so
novels.
good.
Yeah, all covering this time period, and it was to get you hyped for Episode 3. It was in my opinion, the coolest and the best way I've ever seen. The idea worked perfectly. If you were excited about the upcoming Star Wars properties, you could go out and pick up Star Wars stuff right now that's talking about the upcoming Star Wars properties. And guess what? All this stuff is going to be paid off in the movies that are coming up. Or at the very least, if a specific thing isn't paid off, the storyline is still going forward. And I know a lot of people say it's overrated. A lot of you people suck, for the record. So, I see you Reddit. I know that you guys like to complain about stuff all the time. This was the best time to be a Star Wars fan. This project had such synchronicity and unity behind it that it managed to push, and it's why the prequels are so fondly remembered to this day. It would be a complete remiss if people just wanted to forget about this, because this whole Go ahead.
When did Revenge of the Sith come out?
It came out like the 20th.
Of what month?
May.
When did Lego Star Wars come out?
May 29th.
March 29th. March! I was right, motherfucker!
No, it didn't.
Look, I'm on the Wikipedia. It says March 29th. People saw Revenge of the Sith for the first time in Lego form, not on film. Lego.
Chat. Des is lying to us once again. Very unfortunate that he's got to lie. Don't worry, I'll have the
Look,
mods kill him later.
look, I will not be gaslit. Lego Star Wars did come out first.
Oh no, he died. Unfortunate. But yes, so while Des is coming back, the multimedia project was a great amount of tie-ins.
You can't hide the truth.
Yeah, and
March.
it tied in and it launched into episode 3. And speaking of that chat, I have a little thing where to try some background stuff. And boom. You can go to Internet Archive, by the way, chat. It's, just saying, and find certain things such as the entire DVD of the Clone Wars 2003 show with the DVD commentaries. And oh boy, the commentaries super interesting. The commentaries,
that sounds awesome.
yeah, the commentaries really get into the details about what's going on with the situation. All right, so would we like to talk about the show first or the Republic Commando novel first, Bag? What do you want to do? Pag?
Peg is dead, apparently.
Okay, so since Pag is dead, Des, what would you like to start with?
Best for last. Let's do Republic Commando first.
All right. So, the Republic Commando novels. The reason I'm bringing this up is because Pag's elected to read those for the stream. He didn't get a chance to play the game. It didn't go on sale during the prep time for this project, unfortunately. But
yeah, that $4, pretty steep. He was asking a lot.
Hey, man, look, Chad, if you donate, I'll get it. We'll play this game right now on stream. I'll cancel everything. We'll do a Republic Commando on extreme difficulty, and I'll make them play with me as the clones. It'd be great. I'll be scorched. It'll just
die. Punishment?
Huh?
That's supposed to be a punishment?
Yeah. Every time we die, I'm gonna send a drone to shock you in the balls.
Where's the downside? I'm only hearing upsides right now.
You can donate to my Ko-Fi linked below. But yeah. So, I think we should actually wait for Pag to come back to talk about the
I was gonna say I said that.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I feel like I ruined that because we did have a discussion.
So the Clone Wars TV show that we're talking about, and I know it's Clone Wars, 2003, not the Clone Wars. There's a channel who's named Captain Fordo. I think he's changed his channel name recently to Tad Larkin. He has a fantastic video that I highly recommend you watch if you want to understand this next point. But he makes a great statement that Lucas's Star Wars and that whole EU cannot include the Clone Wars TV show that has a
Sith in it. Yeah.
That is the start of Disney canon, even though it started 7 years before Disney bought it. The way that Filoni took a just chainsaw and sodomized the EU is just insane to me. All the work of the of the writers for years was basically thrown out needlessly. And the amount of continuity issues that Filoni introduced with the Revenge of the Sith movie is unforgivable to me. Considering we had 70-odd writers who didn't introduce as many issues, and they only had 3 years to figure it out. And they didn't have the finished product to compare it to. They didn't have as many continuity issues. Something as simple as, spoiler by the way, Barriss Offee becoming a terrorist and blowing up the Jedi Temple, and then suddenly being forgiven and hanging out in Kashyyyk in episode 3 is just wild. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but my favorite personally is the fact that if you watch episode 3, it doesn't really seem like Grievous and Obi-Wan have met in person, and in the show, they're just rivals. They're just rivals.
Chad, am I actually having audio issues? I'm gonna cry if I am.
I don't hear any. I don't hear any issues. It might just be.
Please not. You guys talk while I'm checking to see what the heck's going on.
I'm checking.
I'm checking to see if OBS decided to ruin my life once more.
No. He's gaslighting.
Yeah.
He's literally.
Yeah, I listened.
gaslighting.
I listened to it, and it sounded fine to me. Yeah, I don't know.
This guy's. He's gaslighting. He's gaslighting. We're all good. All restored for it's here for posterity until Disney comes and shocks our balls. But we'll get there when we get there.
We having like streaming issues. The stream looks like it's going fine on my end. I'm not getting any flags. Is it coming through choppy?
It wasn't when I unmuted it.
An issue. Okay, we're all good.
Okay. You guys scaring me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yes, the Clone Wars TV show. It bothers me so much the way Filoni just took like a chainsaw to it. And he had self-insert characters and fanfic characters, and he just made worse versions of characters that already existed. Needless.
The most criminal thing is how in episode 3, I'm not a huge fan of how Grievous is in episode 3, and we'll get to that next week. But he made it a billion times worse in the 09 series. It's so.
Okay, so here's a question, kind of maybe a little bit unrelated. So we see why Grievous is a coffin hacking robot in this series, right?
Yes,
and that's because
he's just a coffin hacking robot in the 09 series. That is not explained. I don't know if that's your question, but
no, that's not my question.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, the reason he's a coffin hacking robot is that Mace Windu reaches out to him with the Force and just goes smoosh. Yeah. So, why is it that nobody else does that?
So I can actually answer that. That's because that was a last-minute fix. What happened is they had the show done in the can and we're sending it out. When Lucas was reviewing it afterwards, he said, Oh no, we have the voice acting done already. Guys, I gave him a cough in the movie because he was supposed to sound like one of these old-timey villains.
I see.
So the scene where Windu shows up and Grievous goes, and gets crushed and goes, and flies away and there's no dialogue. They edited that entire scene 4 weeks before the movie came out.
It's funny. Peg, that's actually 2 edited scenes in one because Shakti was also supposed to be taken up onto Grievous's ship. There's a deleted scene.
Yep,
that's
Grievous
funny.
kills her as well. That's the thing where
she was supposed to be there when they get captured by the Ray Shields. Shakti was supposed to be there, and Grievous is going to execute her. Welcome here, boys, kill her. They kill her.
And then they had this.
Dies 4 times in the movie. It's great.
I was gonna say that, you piece of crap. I was gonna get to that. And then
the best part is all her deaths got cut. That's why you kill her in the Force Unleashed game because Lucas is like, please kill Shakti. I failed to kill her 4 times.
Yeah. And not only that, but also the part where she died also led into some other extended scene where they go down some sewer or something. You can find
they're online. All the scenes are on.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's online. It's online.
Side note,
that's what I was.
According to multiple rumors, there's a 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith. We'll talk about that next week.
God, I want it.
If that exists, please. If anybody out there has any way to get it and to put it online, you will be doing the world a service. You will single-handedly find a way to destroy Disney if you did that, I promise you. Because if a 4-hour rough cut of Revenge of the Sith comes out, it would ruin anything what Disney did. Because it cannot be worse than what they made. Didn't Revenge of the Sith re-release make $80 million? That's
Dude, it made so much money.
No, I think it made 30. I think
it made a lot of money.
Which is still the second most for any re-release ever. But only 30. Only $30 million. Only $30 million. Only. Yeah. But yes, I mean it did make a ton of money, but not enough. Not for a new release. You know what I'm saying?
It made $42 million.
42. All right.
It now is the best release of all time.
All right. Way above Morbius.
I see. No.
42 million was the first weekend. My bad.
Yeah.
I think
no, I see 902 million. I see 902 million from 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's still in. Well, that's the total.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the total.
Right, but the re-release.
I see.
Yeah,
and the movie was released in 2005.
Yeah.
It's the 20-year re-release.
For a 2005 movie, I mean, $900 million is a crazy amount of money. So in total over the 20 years, but still, that's a crazy amount.
It's basically, by the way, it's still in theaters. You can see it now. You should see it now, by the way, I believe. If the theater still has it, because we are going to be talking about it next week. And it's going to probably hit 50 mil globally, which there are multiple movies that came out that haven't hit 50 mil. It's just phenomenal.
Movies.
Snow White's out of theaters now, and it only made $200 million. Think about it. This movie that was made 20 years ago and is considered bad by most people as a re-release made a quarter of one of the most expensive movies Disney's made.
That is,
You know, somebody, and then the worst part is, we'll have to get, I'm sorry, we'll have to get more into it next week, but think about it. This means that there's some bean counters who have been listening to Kathy Kennedy be like, oh no, it's not the right time for Star Wars movies. People don't want to watch Star Wars movies. And now, it's like, hang on a second. This re-release of something that we just had laying around made us $50 million. And that's just on movie sales. That freaking popcorn bucket sold out the day of. I was so angry. I went to 9 different theaters trying to get that damn popcorn bucket.
I bet if they made an event of it and did all 6 movies like one year after another, they would make an absolute killing.
They'd have to pick a year, but they have been doing this for a few years. But I think this is the most popular one that they've done, where it's like
this is by far the most popular release. Because what happened is, think about it. 3 years ago, when it would have been 3 years ago when we had Attack of the Clones thing. It was just after COVID was happening, and people still, for some reason, had optimism that Star Wars could turn around.
Well, not only that though, there was it was a year or two ago we had the Return of the Jedi, and I don't think it did even remotely as good as those.
No,
and Return of the Jedi is seen as much better than
Which is wrong, by the way. This film's way better than Return of the Jedi. I'll fight people about that. This is, but that's for next week.
We may, in fact, have a fight about that, kid. I'm saying may because I last saw these movies when I was like 10. So I'm going to have to rewatch all 6 of them just so I can tell you how much I think that
that's fine, but I think that people are... I think Return of the Jedi is overglazed. I fully believe it is.
Yeah.
Especially compared to Revenge of the Sith.
Is Return of the Jedi number 6?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I think it's a great ending, but I think it's overglazed because people were excited for the ending, and it was the childhood ending. And because I will fully admit, I think the worst film was Episode 2 by far. I think that's the worst of the trilogy, of all 6 of the films. I think for me it goes 2, 1, 6, 4, and then 5 and 3 are tied. They really are. I think 5's a better film, but 3 has better heights. But we'll get to that next week. So.
Yeah.
Back to this Clone Wars TV show. The really cool thing was this started out originally as, hey, we're going to basically pay for ads. And we're going to have these ads running. They're like 30-second little bumper ads after, shows. But George Lucas saw the animation and saw the storytelling that they managed to do in these small little ads and thought, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I have buku cash. We're just paying for this. We're going to buy 3-minute slots at randomly on Cartoon Network and just do it. And it was so fantastic.
Classic. It's classic. You see anything from George Lucas in the 2000s, it's classic. That's a really good idea. Let's do that. Really into that idea.
It's funny you mentioned that. There's a sketch that the Whitest Kids did years ago that they just re-uploaded to the YouTube channel. On a George Lucas sketch. It is so freaking funny. I highly recommend you go watch it if you haven't seen it, because it is exactly
every George Lucas thing is always hilarious.
Well, I think one of the best things about it is he was in the Robot Chicken. They riffed on him. He loved it so much that he offered to come voice himself the next time they riffed on him for free.
So funny.
Lucas is one of the coolest guys of all time. I think Lucas his films or not, that's fine. But to hate the guy, you're a moron. It's I feel it's the same way about Zack Snyder. I don't think Snyder is a bad person. I think his films suck, but I don't think he's a bad person. There are multiple directors that I wish I could hit with bricks repeatedly in Minecraft who hate me as a human being. but like Lucas doesn't. And the way that people treated Lucas, oh my gosh, it's evil.
Yeah, that's what's
I put it in
like
my server,
everyone
and I
was
fully
making fun
believe
of him.
this.
Everyone's making fun of him, and he's like, "Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah,
you want me to voice him next time?"
That's a good little joke. I like it. In fact, I'll do it next time. I mean, that's he seems like a great guy.
Then everyone's making jokes about the Skywalker Ranch at the exact same time.
He seemed like a genuine dude. But because he's such a genuine dude, when he saw the animation that came back with sexy 3POs on the screen right now, perfect PO for the animation. He's like, dude, I need more of this in my life, and that's what turned into these shorts. And the first two, I guess, seasons, if you will, because the way this show is broken down is each year was a season. It was like 2 to 3 minute shorts, multiple ones of them. And Pag, you've never seen this before until this week, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. I obviously love them, and I think Pag, you also fell in love with the shorts, just how much they could get done in such a short time.
Yeah, they did a really, really good job with these shorts. I mean, like the action sequences are very, very good. They're very well animated. The animation in general in these shorts is very good. There's a little bit of wonkiness, like for example the Wookiees, which are on screen like a few seconds ago. I thought those looked a little bit weird, but for the most part, it looked really good. And the storytelling was surprisingly good. And I think that might be a result of them only having 3 minutes to work with for each thing. They had to be really sparing with what they put in there. And a lot of the time, when you're an artist, limitations make things better. And they did very well with the limitations that they had. And I think they did a great deal for the lore. Like they added a bunch of interesting little bits to the lore. They like explained things. They gave people names that you didn't really like know about. They gave people voices that you didn't really know about with like the council scenes. They did a really, really good job with this. With what they had, which wasn't much, they didn't have like hours to do it with. They put lots of story into short bits. And it's good. It's very good.
Well, not only that, but like it's so good. I've watched this literally probably hundreds of times at this point.
The whole thing, like the Ventress fight with
so
Anakin
good.
and
I
Ventress.
love that fight. It's so
People
good.
didn't know that Anakin was going to be Vader yet, did they?
Yes. What do you mean?
So yes and no. So what it was they knew that he was going to eventually become Vader, but like that was it, because at the end of 6, he calls himself Anakin, and you hear him reference that, and they
say that in 5. They say that in 5 because he's called.
But in 6, really, when he takes his helmet off and he calls his dad Anakin, that really connects, and that's really the see where it sells it. The plot twist that actually happens is if you watch the prequels and you don't know the OT, Anakin becoming evil is a plot twist, as well as Palpatine being behind everything. And this show does another phenomenal job of hinting at it. If you know, because since we know, spoilers chat, that Palpatine's Sidious, you can see it completely in the character design. And you see
it's
some
great.
way he moves
great.
the shadows and stuff, but it's not explicit at all in the show. Because Lucas wanted to make sure that was held as a secret, because there's multiple people who'd never seen the original trilogy. This was the first one they were growing up with. Because I remember in the theater, with my friends and my family, I knew that because I was like, yeah, his name's Palpatine. That's the Emperor's name. I'm not an idiot. But my friends at the time, were middle schoolers. They were idiots. They didn't believe me. And when it happened, they were like, "Oh my god, he was the bad guy the whole time." It was great.
Well, no, the kid, the best example of that in the show is, I think we were supposed to be talking about the Commando, but no, that's right. We decided to go to the show because you weren't here, Pag. Anyways,
all right, my wife needed help.
The what's it called? The best instance of the Palpatine thing is literally when Grievous is killing the Ithator, I think his name is, whatever the
bug guy.
Yeah, the bug guy. I don't remember what their species. But like,
it was
it's literally when he just steps back and his face, is initially concerned and then just becomes uncaring and cold. It's so good. I love it. And in terms of that as well, like there's the moments are great with just absolutely fantastic with especially with season 2, the ending with Ventress. Like that fight's awesome, and uh,
Speaking of Ventress fight, as beyond storytelling, this fight scene does with the colors and the ambiance what
oh, it's so good.
every single moron on Twitter thinks every time a red lightsaber is turned on in the Star Wars happens. The Obi-Wan show fight scene that they were all like, oh, it's so cool. This is what they actually thought was happening. This fight scene is it. The way the colors clash, and even better, because we know Anakin's going to go evil, multiple times in the fight scene, when Anakin starts becoming more domineering and angry and overpowering, his lightsaber goes under it, and the red light reflects on him, because this is storytelling. This is how you have a storytelling action scene. This is, by the way, one of the reasons I wanted to tie into this is a few weeks ago, we did the action scenes. I so wanted to talk about this, but when Pag said he'd never seen it, I did not want to spoil it. This, to me, if I had to pick any action scene and say this is how you do storytelling in action, it is right here. Just watch the Anakin Ventress fight. They don't even say a friggin' word to each other. You can just see by the way they're standing, who's going, what's going on, the intensity in their face, the way the duel is going, the flashing lights. You get all the storytelling basically silently. And that's how you could tell it's a good fight scene. Because most fight scenes these days have everybody quipping and saying, oh, blow on fuel. My ass is bleeding. Help me, Captain. Like all that crap. And then, it's like, it's overblown. I don't need you to tell me what's going on. With this fight scene here, you can just see everything. The visual storytelling, the give and the take, the when Anakin starts embracing evil, it's all there. And it's just, you look at it, it's like, why don't we have this anymore? Why can't we have these nice things?
Yeah,
well, not only that, more than that, there's one word shared between them. That's where you're wrong, actually, and it's why it's so good. It's you'll pay for that, and it's after Ventress kills all the troops that Obi-Wan sent after him. It's after she destroys, I think it's R5, if I recall correctly, is the droid that's R4. Okay, so it destroys R4, and that's the one word they share, and the rest of the fight is just awesome. And I think I don't know if you want to do this, but I think it might be good to go through it because I love that fight. I love the entire scene. It's so good. The fact that it starts out with her sending him to Yavin 4 and then taking out the clones to then moving on to the
that's part of it's just something. So the fight scene that you watched, it was over multiple weeks. You got to remember the scene where she killed all the clones. Like when the clones land, like we're here to help you, sir, and she wipes out all the clones. That was 1 week. And the scene where she's standing there and she activates her lightsabers, that's how it ended. So then you had to wait a whole other week to say, "Oh my God, Anakin's gonna get his ass kicked." It was so cool.
Because the entire scene before is her just playing with him when they're in the Starfighter. Not to mention just her introduction, which was so great with not only showing her power but also showing how Dooku's just so above her in terms of power level. Like with she taking down the whole arena without even using her lightsabers, and then at the very end, Dooku she does use her lightsabers because she takes down the big beast. I think 80% of them, she doesn't use her lightsabers.
I love that Dooku gives her a rematch too. He gives her a rematch and beats her bloody again. Because
the first time he immediately takes her out with Force lightning. The second one is where he actually sees how much worth she has. And her story, not only in this, but in the Star Wars.
So Chad, I got it pulled up to the part when the clones land. So this is the start. Hang on, Des. This is the start of one of the episodes when the clones land here. You can see it behind the Doge NFT. This is what we're talking about. But go ahead with her story, because her story is phenomenal as well.
Her story's awesome. It's really cool because I think how she's introduced is her first appearance isn't, if I recall, this. Her first appearance is an arc, and it's the same with actually a Dirge might have come out before. I don't know the exact timeline.
Came out in this, but the comic explaining him came out just after because the Dirge episodes came out 2 weeks after episode 2 released.
Right. Okay. So the first comic that she appears in with Dirge is a wild arc where basically on Naboo there's the moon of Naboo. They're like, hey, there's some settlers who haven't been communicating. Can you guys figure out what's going on? And then it's basically they gas the planet. Dirge and Ventress gas the planet. And the first thing that Dirge and her do is just kill a Jedi's master, cut off the Padawan's arm, and then fight Anakin and Obi-Wan. And that's the introduction to them.
And so, and what's funny about that is a comic that and it's a tie-in short story, and that is the tutorial level in the Clone Wars Galactic Saga game, the Galactic Battlegrounds, the strategy game. That's a tutorial level.
That's no, because Galactic Battlegrounds, the tutorial level is the Wookiee one.
No, that's the main one. The Clone Wars add-on is the tutorial.
Is it really? Okay, because I know I know the main game mainly takes place during episode 2, so that's interesting that they chose. Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's really cool. It's really cool. But yeah, also the scene where Ventress kills the clones, this is one of the most visceral pieces of that they could show. Because remember, back in the day, you had to be very careful what you could show on TV. But it is literally a horror movie that you're watching.
No, dude, it's awesome. Especially like the ending where it's like the guy just being dragged along.
Right now, he's being dragged right now.
You know, and that's what gets Anakin's attention, because all the other ones are like quick enough that it's relatively silent. It's so good.
Yeah, it's actually on screen now.
Where Anakin literally goes like, "It's quiet, too quiet."
Yep.
Oh, so
here, chat. We're about to see. This is where the episode ends. For most, like when you're watching it at home, like for the TV. The droid gets blown up. He looks up, and who he sees stepping out of the fire? Ventress. He uses the Force to move the fire out of her way because she's so cool. Anakin glares, and then when she steps up, it's like, bam, the episode's over. So like right here's where it ends. And like, what?
Ventress is one of my favorite. It's so good.
You're like, what the heck did I just watch? Like, I need to see more of this. Like, here it is when she pulls at the weapons.
Yeah. We should go over this fight scene, and then after that, I need you to remind me to get back on track. And by back on track, I mean then I want to talk about the Jabim arc, because the Jabim, in
we'll get the Jabim. That's
so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah,
I love Jabim. That story arc.
The Multimedia project also did a phenomenal job of showing you how Anakin fell.
It's so for real. Not only that, then it tied in with Star Wars Empire, if I recall correctly, which was going on at the same time, because a lot of the comics tied in, just in different eras, would occasionally be like, oh, and here's this planet or this person that survived or was around at the same time. It ties in great. And the Jabim arc, even in Star Wars Empire, it wasn't as good, but it's still really good, because a lot we'll get there. We'll get there.
I mean, it's interesting how Ventress is just a tool to get him closer to the dark side. That's all that Ventress is to Dooku, and it works. It do be working though. And later on in this series, there's another moment where he very clearly is moving closer to the dark side. With the one-handed guys, I think that's one of the things that this series does very well is show
when we get to, I want to talk. That's going to be its own long discussion. We're not going to get to the book. And I love that part of. I love everything.
So the other thing that was super important about this show, and this is something Genndy specifically asked Lucas if they could do, the trials to become a Jedi were not known before this. Lucas had a mandate at all of Lucasfilm and all the LucasArts and all the companies. They could not show the trial. He didn't want people to know how to become a Jedi, the actual things they had to go through. But Genndy was dying to show it. So he said, hey, what if we have it so Anakin has a non-conventional trial? We list the trials by name, and he goes on them roughly by the events of the show. And Lucas thought that was a phenomenal idea, and I completely agree. It gives Anakin a non-conventional training, which helps set up his strangeness, if you will, once more, reinforcing his unorthodoxy and the fact that Jedi were just kind of grasping at straws and how they failed him.
Like the scene with the council where they talk about that, and especially his final trial that we actually see in the show. It's so good, especially with how, like, we'll get to it. Like, I don't want to talk too much about it. I want to get back on track on the, like, Ventress fight scene, because I think it's worth talking about, but there is so much to talk about with
the whole thing with the Ventress fight scene. Another really awesome thing is, the planet that they fight on is Yavin 4.
Yep.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, this is the planet that the Rebels eventually base up on. This is
they're on one of the temples made by
Yep, the Maasai
What's his
temples.
name?
The Maasai
The
temples.
Maasai temples that what's the phase? What's the guy called who's trapped in his soul?
I
Trapped.
forget. He's oh man, he had the Sith guys, but you look it up while we talk. But the really
Okay.
cool thing is by putting the fight scene here, where the light and the dark side are tearing between both of them, and this is where Anakin starts to fall. This is ironically the place where Luke would eventually rise to start to be a true Jedi. Because before Yavin, Luke
Exar
wasn't a
Kun.
Jedi. Exar Kun, yeah.
Exar Kun.
But yeah, before Luke fought on the Battle of Yavin, he was not a Jedi. He was not going to be a Jedi. Yeah, he got some training from Obi-Wan, but he wasn't getting it. He was too stubborn and too much of a kid, if you will. But when he's on Yavin and he puts his targeting computer away and uses the Force to help guide his missiles, that's when he first reaches out and really touches the Force. That's here, which is really interesting and symbolic that it's the same place that his father truly started his fall, truly was given a test, and truly was pushed to his limits. Same thing happened to his son of Trial, whereas Anakin technically broke, because this is where he starts his descent to the evil. Luke is where he succeeded, and this is where he started his path into good. It's a fantastic juxtaposition and shows an understanding of storytelling well beyond just setting on a random planet somewhere.
Not only that, like a lot of the fight is so cool because I mean, not only does it start out like 80% of a lot of the fight they just use force powers. They don't even use it's not even a lightsaber fight until the very end. Like the end is where it becomes much more visceral, like up close and personal with the lightsaber fight. But before that, it's a lot of using the force, using branches, jumping between. Ventress is using her stealth a lot more. Like much of the fight,
it's very Samurai Jack-esque. It's very Samurai Jack flavor.
It's only at like the midpoint where the range starts to fall, and they're at the temple proper where it becomes far more.
The range is another thing I really want to talk about because
it's so good.
Besides it being an awesome visual, you understand what the rain and hitting their lightsabers represents. That moment, it is the power, the tension, and just almost the hatred that both sides have for each other begins radiating off the lightsabers. That's when they begin smoking during this fight.
Yeah, not only that, but
steam's coming
the
off.
sound design of the lightsabers, actually fizzling in the rain, like it's perfect.
It is.
Then there's also the last moment where it was just shown on screen, where she's on her back, lightsabers up, defending herself, and he is just slamming down on her lightsabers over and over. That is like a direct callback to the throne room fight scene with Vader, where
Luke did the same
thing. The exact same thing, except Luke doesn't give in. Luke ultimately forgives him, which. Yeah. It's great. It's just very, very well done. Like very well done.
The amount of care and tension that you put into this is just outstanding. This is what when you're writing a story at all, this is what you want to have your story, especially if it's a content that you're adding in after somebody's created something. You've got free access to all the symbols and to the references, and this is why it frustrates me so much when I see people online just losing their mind over, Vader's lightsaber's red when he held it in front of his face. Like, you idiots, we had it here, what's actually good.
So the Force, to comment on something Sweaty Cheesy said, those are Force temples. They were built by basically Sith refugees who came there after the Great Sith War, where Korriban got kind of nuked because they tried to destroy Coruscant and stuff. And Exar Kun's also trapped in one of those temples somewhere. There's a lot. Tales of the Jedi goes over it. Tales of the Jedi is also very much worth reading. It's really good.
Pause it right here, and you should look at this. And this
is where,
it's
so good.
Yeah, where
not only the fact that
lighting it up, he's got a red lightsaber. It is just so cool.
Not only that, the fact that she knocks his lightsaber out of his hand, and it's only when he grabs both of her hands, forces her to drop one with his mechanical hand, and that's how he gets the upper hand. And not only that, of course, the awesome visual of just him, instead of forces her to drop her lightsaber, Force pushes her away, and then slowly lifts it up. It's so good.
Yeah, and then he just engages in full anger and charges
Yeah,
forward.
he just wails on her. He just
Protects
wails
her
on
back
her,
on.
and then
Yeah,
in
and like I
between,
said, and this
I
is where the
think Duel
wailing
of
starts.
Fates is going on in the background, if I recall. I don't know the exact music, but not only that, but then every time while he's wailing at some, at certain points, then they start going over the masters. I think Qui-Gon's in there as well.
Yeah,
If
Yoda
not,
just flashed on the screen. Yeah, there. I
yeah,
got it. It
Yoda,
flashes, and
Obi-Wan,
I
and
just
Qui-Gon, if I recall
yeah.
correctly.
And if you see this render, each one is rendered in the color of their lightsaber. So when you cut back to Anakin and he's rendered in red, it's really selling. This is like his inner personality. This is what's happening. And you watch it, and it's like this is the storytelling perspective that you want from a show when it's made by creatives and such. I really am just floored that this cartoon, if you will, took the time and effort to just be this good, and it holds up. And remember, this was made a few weeks after episode 1 came out. They were already setting things like this up and getting things ready.
You mean like
NNN said
episode?
something interesting just now. Des, tell us about the theme of man and machine infusion, which I think is actually a very interesting thing that he uses the non-human part of himself to crush her hand and then pick up, and then he uses again the non-human part of himself to hold that lightsaber now, whereas before he was holding it in his meat foot hand.
Well,
Which
not only that, but that also helps tie into the vision he sees in the, skipping forward a bit to then the second one, which we should also dedicate our own like special talking about that scene. But the fact that like in that scene, in the scene where he's experiencing the vision and where he eventually leads to his final confrontation with the final test, where he sees the vision. The vision is, Dooku takes off his hand, and then through this hand he gains more power. But because of his lust for power, he, you see him eventually kill all those around him and kill the one he, cared about the most. To where then, of course, all the symbols go into the, Vader mask, while all this mechanical stuff, has kind of a Vader-esque, steam, sounding to it.
Mm-hmm.
In the tunnels and shirtless. Nari has all the tat stuff on him.
We're getting another guest tonight. Zoog wants to join us. Hopefully his microphone holds up.
It did last time, so.
It did. Here's hoping.
Yeah,
All right, welcome,
it wasn't
Zoog.
my mic, it was my internet. That's all resolved now.
All right. Zoog deemed me saying he had some great stuff he wanted to share as well, and I figured let's let him on. Because Zoog, he was just like me. We grew up with this stuff. It was fantastic.
Okay. I think another thing that I wanted to mention instead of typing in the chat was that during the fight, like when it's first starting off, it's force powers because it's not only the ambush and the hiddenness, but it's the nature of like it's in the forest, so they don't know where each other are. They're using the elements of it, and it's all untamed in wilderness.
That's not true, because Ventress always knows where Anakin is. It's only Anakin who doesn't have a good idea. Like,
but she's using the Force to like obfuscate the threat, but it's also adds to jungle warfare. When you're being
it's absolute jungle warfare. It's her strategy. She's trying to do the exact same thing she did to the clones. That's how she treats it.
Well, no, what I'm saying is the use of the jungle is helping with the narrative of using the Force because the Force itself is part of nature. So they're both using the Force while they're nature, and when they finally get the lightsabers, it's when they're back when they get to the temples. So when they're getting to civilization, that's when they start using the lightsabers because that's how the lightsabers came to be.
Yeah.
When civilization announced, that's when lightsabers were created, whereas opposed to the Force is pure natural. So when they're getting to man-made sections, that's when they start getting to the lightsabers, which is man-made or alien or tech created. Use of the Force. I think that's a really good use of storytelling where the nature is part of the Force, and then the lightsaber, which is extension, but it's also created, also only happens once they get the temple, where thing is where humans or aliens or whatever try to dominate nature and put their own spin on it, and they use less and less Force powers the more they get into the temple, where it's just pure lightsaber combat.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. The whole thing is so awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, Peg, here you go. I know you didn't get to see a good look at Qui-Gon. I got a green version of him on screen for you.
Yeah, there you go.
What is up with this Qui-Gon's nose? Oh my
you.
goodness!
He's got a
Yeah.
schnoz.
So we
Yeah,
were
for
talking
real.
earlier. Me and Peg, when he started, he's like, I don't like the character design of Anakin. I'm like, wait till you see Qui-Gon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
This
that
isn't
guy
even
could
the
smoke a
best
cigar
Qui-Gon.
in the shower.
No, it's much worse when you actually see him in part 2 for like 5
The
Yeah.
best part in part 2 is because Anakin's looking at the tree like, I don't want to go in there, and then Qui-Gon just comes in from out of frame. Me and my dad always bust out laughing because he just looks like some horrible caricature monster, and it's just like that's
And he comes
decent.
in on a profile view, so his nose is even more pronounced.
It's so funny. It's so
I
funny.
think that was
what
like
did you
a
do to my
major
boy?
issue with Clone Wars, like the CGI one. They tried to make it look like this. They used like all the character designs are based upon this design, and I think that didn't help because you can't really put Gendy's designs. I mean, Dogman, I love the man's designs, but you cannot do them in like in a realistic setting because the thing is, he doesn't let realism hold him back. He goes full caricature in almost all of his things because that's just what he's allowed to do because it's hand drawn animation. That's everyone realized like, okay, this isn't going to look natural. It might not look real, but it will fit because it's a hand drawn. When you go to CGI, go to fully realistic, you get that uncanny valley look, and I think that's why the Clone Wars just looks so wrong. And even like Rebels, to a point, went to like let's look at
Rebels looks worse. I don't know what it is, but Rebels looks worse.
It's got like worse animation quality, but the models themselves are more believable.
I think the problem with Rebels is the lightsabers are just so thin.
Well,
they're too thick.
It's so weird.
The lightsabers are different. No. Not only that, the lightsabers and the Star Destroyers are a different issue, but like I'd say even the character. Actually, I'm not sure I agree with the characters. It's mainly just like 2 or 3 characters that look disgusting. It's like Yoda and like one others. Because now that I think about it, I do think it does look better. It's just that Yoda, for whatever reason, looks absolutely disgusting, where in Clone Wars he looked alright.
Dooku Clone Wars CGI is hilarious because his head is gigantic.
Yeah.
He's got a forehead that can make Yomi look proud.
I don't know if I can find it where people took the actual faces and photos.
No, dude, it's so great. It's such a great meme. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Find it, we all yak.
Yeah.
Yapping.
It's such a good meme. Yeah. I hate this. Kids looking for the meme. I want to talk about Jabim.
About Jabim?
Jabim,
but I want to finish covering the show. We're actually going to go back because I know you wanted to talk about...
Well, if we want to talk about the show, then let's go to... I don't know.
Dirge, so you can talk about Dirge a bit. I think Dirge is...
Okay, Dirge. Dude, the way they start off with Dirge, it's just like, we're losing everything. We've been showing off that these the ARC troopers are just awesome. They're wrecking shop. The lore. You got to the second book, right, Peg? So I think this book goes over the ARC troopers as well.
I love his introduction too. It's like you got the guy going, "You're supposed to be here doing."
Yeah, no, he's like, that's what I was getting to.
Alex,
we're seeing all the.
Second, I need to take a Shaggy. Have a second. Des, 1 second. Alex Gomez, Shaggy shows up later. I promise you.
Yeah, Shaggy shows up later. No, but yeah, so it starts off, like the past stuff has just been like clone win after clone win. It's been ARC troopers just wrecking shop, just being the greatest. And then how do they respond? It's this, you see the moons, this like absolute banker tier, like most like George. What did you?
Sniveling little snot who wouldn't know a fight in real life.
Well, I will leave it at George. What did you mean by this? And he's, being a sniveling cow. He's like, everything's going wrong. Why did Dooku send you?
You're not doing anything. You're supposed to. He just starts choking him. He's like, when you're ready.
When you're ready. And then he comes out with all his like discount IG-88s.
I like to think that like if you want a good comparison, it's like a more modern one. Like I think it was the second Batman movie with Christopher Nolan, where like Bane's like, "You think you have power here?" It's like,
The third one. That's the third one.
That's the third. Okay, I get the numbers mixed up.
Yeah.
Honestly,
but But
Gonna
like,
be real, the lancing thing, the like this weird, yeah, it's like my least favorite thing from this whole thing. I was just like, why is this happening? Like, why this is ridiculous.
So
like,
I also hated it, but
yeah,
it's absurd.
Cool. It's the rule of cool. Like this is impractical.
It's rule of cool, but it's absurd.
Everything
about it
doesn't fit. It's the one thing that just randomly, it's like, why is this like you can everything else is very believable. Like you could believe all the stuff going on. It internally makes sense, and then they do this. It's like, excuse me. Also, you can blow up their armored vehicles with one stab. Excuse me. What? Yeah. Why is this happening?
I could partially believe the speeder javelin explosives because they use droids, and droids are highly expendable, so they're more like suicide bombers. I could buy that. Durg doing it is less believable because he's not expendable.
Well, see, the thing is, right? I can't believe them even doing this because those things they're traveling in a straight line at dudes with guns. That means you're done.
I was gonna get to that, but that's part of the best part because like one of the clones shoots Dirge in the back, and then he just turns back and shoots him back.
Just akimbo style.
Like, why is any of this happening? That's what I was left to wonder.
I got him on screen chat for the live action versions, so you can enjoy it. I'm going to scroll through them so chat can enjoy them a little bit, 2 at a time.
And then not only the Confederacy doing that, then what is the Republic's response to it? Obi-Wan dresses up like a clone, still has their own speeder army. But everyone gets in, a ton of clones in Obi-Wan get into this gear, get us into clone gear, and then starts doing the exact same thing.
They prep for this. It's like mounted javelin combat is a trademark in this universe.
It's so I love it, but it is absolutely part of like the scale and like the level of power in. It's mainly the Jedi Tartakovsky, because it's not only the show. They also had Clone Wars Adventures, if I recall the comic series correctly. And it has the exact same, like, bizarre power scaling where it's like, why are you doing this? Like, you can do that? Like, question mark?
And I wanted to say, when I showed those disgusting creatures on the screen, half the audience left.
Nice. Look, that's
I don't blame them.
But yeah, no, the whole scene doesn't make sense. It's all rule of cool, and I don't think that it's that cool. Honestly, I don't think it's actually cool for the payoff.
I think
it's cool, but not rule cool.
And they could have done
something.
It's not worth it.
I think that it's bad.
Combat isn't a mistake. It's just that they be mounted like with guns and stuff like that, not explosive javelins.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Yeah. I'm sorry. I think it's bad until they get rid of like it's Obi-Wan versus Dirge, and then Dirge, blows up, and then Dirge actually doesn't have to use his javelin, and Obi-Wan's already using his lightsaber. So I think at that point it's fine.
I
but like
that they gave Dirge until that point utility because a bounty hunter of his caliber would have so many different variants of weapons to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, he should be doing like literally anything other than a javelin. That's what I mean.
Any other tactic. I mean, if they had like had anti-tank weapons that were shoulder mounted and they started riding around with the speeder bikes and blowing things up, that would be very believable. I'd be like, oh yeah, and it would also be pretty cool.
Like heavy weapons that you can't really walk or run with, but you're on a speeder, so that's absorbing all the weight in the recoil. That would make sense.
The worst part is the Wookiee scenes in the Revenge of the Sith movie show the better way of doing this. You just have a guy throw a landmine on it as you drive by, which would have worked perfectly. If a guy had to like plant an explosive and run, that
forget about the problem. Forget about the movie. Some of the IG-88 droids do that. They do that in like it's interesting.
They literally throw the knife on the side of it. They
do both. Shit. You're right. Like it's not even like they didn't think about it. They thought about it. They're like, we should include that, and then still kept the javelin. Yeah.
By the way, no NNN. They didn't characterize him as incompetent. They characterized him as highly competent, and this was a tactical genius move on his part.
This is what turns the battle from the Republic just dominating to the Republic are like, kinda in trouble. And then
Javelin Swarm, let's go.
And it wipes out all the javelins until the only two people left on javelins are Dirge and Obi-Wan, to where Dirge turns it into they're fighting on feet, and it's
a close quarters combat fight.
Yeah, close quarters combat fight, which I think the close quarters combat fight is great. That fight.
And I was saying, about it shows his Dirge weaponry, and it shows that even a person who's capable could defeat a Jedi, as long as they're not a master. Before Dirge becomes the squiggly monster he is on screen right now, he still holds up competently, and it's only because Obi-Wan is a master he's able to defeat him. So I like that it shows what master Jedis can do between Obi-Wan and I think the Mace Windu scene where he's in the prairie or wherever it is, where he's just using the Force.
Oh yeah, it was sick. Scene.
I want to pause for a second
because the masters can do, but
to me, scenes were the maximum rule of cool. It's kind of dumb, but it's just scraping the barrel. It's just it's almost too stupid to be enjoyable, but it's almost there. It's still very enjoyable. It's just nearly too stupid.
But the only one who's doing it that does that is Yoda in when they're attacking Coruscant.
Real quick. I want to pause for 1 second because the Dirge and Ventress just reminded me of something. Hey, Peg, I have a very interesting question to pose to you.
No. Yes.
I think Kid already knows where I'm going with this.
What is the question? What are we?
Kid or Peg, do you think Dirge or Ventress died? Either of them? I'm just curious.
Dirge definitely didn't, because at the end it showed his goop slithering away, right? So
okay.
Dirge
you're correct. Dirge did live.
And Ventress fell down a big pit.
She just fell down a well.
So no, she's fine. She's a Jedi.
Both are fine. Both show up later.
Okay. All right.
Dirge, we do see die. Ventress gets to hang out in the Outer Rims with Alpha.
Well, Dirge didn't even Disney die. You could see where
you see him slithering away. Dirge does get
he seems
Dirge dies later. He does get thrown into a sun. It's very funny.
He gets sent to
that's
Anakin. Yeah, because Dirge is I heal a ton. What do you think you're gonna do to me? And Anakin's prick, and then he just force pushes him into a escape pod, aims the escape pod at the sun, and then sends him off. He's that's what I'm gonna do, dickhead.
Was that the comic?
Yeah.
Let's see who dies first, the sun or you.
That's a pretty good end for him. But yeah, no, I didn't think that Dirge died at all. And I mean, on first viewing, you're definitely supposed to get the impression that Ventress died, and Anakin is supposed to get the impression that he killed Ventress, which is the important character
beat. He was supposed to die originally.
I see.
Yeah, there's a problem though that happens in Star Wars. Lucas's
a cool character gets cool when they want him back.
Yeah, Darth Maul's the pinnacle example where Lucas is actually, I like this character a lot. I want to do 30 more stories with him. So they just give him robot legs and make him a spider, and he'll come back. It'll be great.
It's funny because they revived
dumb, give him real legs again.
They killed Ventress a second time in the comics and then brought her back. And to be honest, I think it's worth it. For all her other comic appearance, including her dying a second time and coming back a second time, I think it's worth it. Especially since after the second time,
she dies, she falls off. I get it, but
I mean, if you just think about it for 2 seconds, it's no Sith or Jedi should ever die. Maul for sure, but she just fell.
Maul coming back is very silly.
Yeah, I feel like getting chopped in half should be it. I think that's...
Well, not just chopped in half, but then falling and plummeting into your death.
Mm-hmm.
At least when Ventress dies the second time, and this is going into the comics, so what happens is Ventress basically snoops in on Anakin having special time with his wife on a phone call. He's saying nothing's into her, and she's like, "Oh, you have a wife? Now I'm gonna mess your life up, stupid idiot!" And then Anakin's like, "I'm killing you!" And she's like, "You can't kill me." She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "You can't kill me. You're a Jedi." It's like, I am not supposed to have a wife. I'm killing you. So then he wraps her up and drops her in Coruscant. And at least what they say for that one is that they actually have to do some special procedure to get her into a stable state. A and B, everyone is like, no, she's dead. So at least they give an explanation. Like, yeah, that should have killed her, but like we had to use.
Well, then again, like it wouldn't be impossible for Ventress to come back because her sisters have like Jedi or have Force zombie magic.
That doesn't exist yet, so we're not. We haven't ruined her backstory yet, which we'll get into when I'm allowed to talk about the comics more, kid, and talk about Jabim, because the Jabim storyline then leads into the second storyline with Obi-Wan, which is fantastic, which includes learning Ventress's backstory, which is peak. But we are not on that yet. We are still focused on the show. So let's get back to the show. I don't remember where we were at. So I guess let's talk about
the show. Is the Dantooine scene, which we already talked about.
Oh, if we want to go to the Dantooine scene.
We can talk about the comics.
We were talking about Dirge and the assault, where they turn against the Republic with the Lance Brigade.
Yeah, so I do want to say the Dantooine scene is here for 3 reasons. They wanted Wendu to have a cool fight scene, but the reason they picked Dantooine is because Lucas thought it would be weird that the Empire wouldn't look on Dantooine because the Knights of the Republic games established there was a Jedi temple there. So he said we need to do something on Dantooine to make it war-torn so the rebels can have a secret military base there, because if it's just farmers, it wouldn't make sense. Because remember, in episode 4, she says there's a rebel base on Dantooine. So they put the war here so you now know, oh, that's why there was a rebel base here, or a base here for the rebels to take over for later.
Pretty neat.
It's really neat that it's just like a small little detail, and they don't call attention to it at all. They're just like, hey, we should add this here. Just a little flavor text, just a little more for you.
And they didn't really say a rebel base is there. It's just that they're fighting on Dantooine because the.
No, they do have a rebel base.
No. In episode 4, Leia tells them there's a rebel base there.
Leia says there's a base there.
Right, in the Clone Wars, they don't have to say it, though. That's the thing. They just show you some fighting there, so you're naturally like, oh, there's a base.
Yeah. But I think it's also the show because, like, in the intro narrative, like, Yoda's like, oh, the war is everywhere. So it's, like, showing that even, like, a farm planet like Dantooine that has no military resources.
It has a Jedi temple. Is a bit important. It's like,
but it's not. It's like temple. It would like you would be considered like, for instance, it's like saying there's a war going on and like Nebraska is being showing affected. Like, oh, that's how. I
don't think Nebraska has like a nuclear silo or something, or like I don't know.
Nebraska probably does.
Yeah, you're better off saying something like if they went to Sicily. Because Sicily doesn't matter technically, but then you go there and it's like, oh, there's all this food and stuff, but like, oh, there's actually Roman fortresses here. Okay.
I'm more talking like the showing of how the war is escalated out of control and the Republic can't contain it or control it. They're losing it. It's fair. In peaceful places. It should not be because the
it shouldn't be there. Like I agree with that.
You can't lose this. Why is war at my front door?
Yeah, like it's definitely showing how bad the situation is to the Republic. But this, like, I don't like the Nebraska example because Nebraska is too useless. Like Dantooine does have some like nice strategic resources, including taking out a Jedi temple.
So you think there's nothing in Nebraska, but that's the point. You're not supposed to know anything.
Okay, my bad. You're right. Kid,
there's lots of empty land to do research and experiments and store guns.
Well, do we want to do that, or do we want to talk about Shaggy? Because like, there's a lot of show stuff.
Shaggy's not going to be on screen for the 20 minutes.
Okay, fine. Jabim is peak. So it starts off. It's like it's the perfect representation of sunk cost fallacy. It's so good. And not only that, it's one of the many stories in Star Wars Republic that really humanizes the CIS. Because the whole thing is, if I recall correctly, it's one of the Outer Rim planets, and it's like, yeah, our deal with the Republic suck. Dooku's gonna like pay us way more. Like, he's not gonna screw us over. Of course we're gonna join the CIS. Are you out of your mind? And not only that, like, it's an outer world planet that I think only matters recently because they found some special mineral. I don't remember exactly which one, but they find that like it basically is a crap hole, and like only the local nobility are profiting off the situation. Not only that, the lead dude has like these special Jedi hunters because he's specifically so pissed at the Jedi for like upholding the Republic and everything that is on that. And we see just the flooding of the planet with tons of fortifications, tons. They show, interesting enough, a lot of walkers that aren't shown in many other places, including a Republic AAT. They have another really cool, interesting concept where, like I said earlier, on the Naboo, where the Jedi Master died and her Padawan lost her arm. There's a shortage of masters at this point. So there's basically this Padawan squad where it's just like 8 Padawans all hanging out with each other, very much falling into non-Jedi ways, including 2 of them basically banging, where they're all on their own because no one's there to train them. The masters are dying off, and there's all these Padawans, and she's there with her mechanical arm, which is kind of parallels Anakin in the same way. And not only it's this muddy planet, it's this damp planet. I believe
the atmosphere that's so polluted with electricity and runoff that like hovercraft can't work there.
Yeah, and not only can hovercraft not work there, there's only certain times that they can get spaceships, if I recall correctly. Yep. There's either a blockade or like the planet itself is so polluted that like you can't fly spaceships most of the time. So that like once they land down there, they're stuck. They can't get out. So they're under a siege from the CIS, trying to last. And at some point, Obi-Wan seemingly dies, and of course everyone's like, well, Obi-Wan is not dead, he's in episode 4. But like, if you're reading this comic, and well, first of all, if you're like kid's friend, which I'm sure that's 0 people who are A, dedicated enough to read the comic, and B, actually going to be reading the comic and don't know Star Wars. But if somehow you were that 1%, it's really good because then you see Anakin join the squad of like the rejects who doesn't have masters anymore.
The Padawan pack.
The Padawan pack. Yeah,
the planet is so like it's such a Vietnam quagmire that a whole bunch of the Padawans and their masters were there, completely got slaughtered. The knights and the masters kept getting killed, and then these guys all team up.
No, that's what's so great. It's not the Padawan pack is not a symptom of Jabim. The Padawan pack.
No, they lost them during the Clone Wars, but it's just they all teamed up here to do stuff together and try to to learn.
Yeah, and that's where like I said before, you get 2 of them are screwing, 2 of them, the rest are just hanging out, trying to get through. The one who lost her master on Naboo's moon is like clearly going to the dark side. She's like just full of rage and stuff, and no one cares enough to like actually be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't go to the dark side, kiddo. Like,
yeah, but it's funny because what ends up happening is the Anakin gets recalled by Palpatine, and that's the only reason he lives.
Palpatine's like, oh, I'm not losing Anakin over this. Like, you're coming back.
And this loss was so heavy that the Republic lost the entire sector of space afterwards. They had so many troops fighting here that it just caused like a collapse of the whole front of that region. It was
not only that. This leads to the best part of it, and the part that leads over to Empire. So the part is, it's like, okay, we're evacuating. We don't have that much space. Everyone get on. And Anakin's like, it's Anakin's choice. And what's Anakin's choice? He has 2 choices. Is he going to fill up the troops with clones and like Republicsmen, or is he going to take some of the locals who supported? For the civilians who fought, tooth and nail to try and help him keep the planet. And he says, this is your planet. This is your problem. Deal with it. And he takes his clones and he leaves. And this is after basically a final stand where all of the Padawans die. They die in, the lovers die together. One of them dies, because they had a link with the other ones. The angry one dies in, her own rage. I think the leader of the Jedi killers dies in his own fight against one of the local leaders as well. And this leads into Empire, which is fantastic, because then in Empire, this is post Episode 4, and everyone's like, "Hey, here's Luke. He destroyed the Death Star. He's our big hero." And then, so we go to the Jabim, and they're all like, "Luke Skywalker, are you perchance related to Anakin Skywalker?" And they're like, "We were gonna join the rebellion, but we hate your guts. What the hell are you doing here? What? Who are you? You piece of shit! Your father left us all to die to be under the Empire, and this after the CIS. Like, what are you doing here? And while that's happening, you have Vader, of course, tracking the rebellion, and Vader's like, Jabim! This is where here are the jack-offs where I had to go through, I thought Obi-Wan died. This place sucked. There was constant, and not only that, the planet is actually like a dried-out desert. The Empire's just like extracted all the resources, completely changed the climate. It's like complete wasteland now. Yeah, and that's how it goes in Empire. But leading into the next arc of Republic, this goes into a special thing where Ki-Adi-Mundi is like, hey, I know it's rough that Obi-Wan died, but you need to get over it. Like, get over it, buddy. And this leads into a couple really fantastic arcs. It leads into my favorite one is probably the one with Ventress, where basically we find out that no, Alpha and Obi-Wan, they're alive. They're in Ventress's BDSM dungeon, and she's just torturing Obi-Wan because Dooku's still like, that Qui-Gon guy. He was my apprentice. I still have soft feelings. Maybe I can turn Obi-Wan to the dark side. Or no, actually, I think Ventress does this without Dooku's knowing, because Ventress is pissed that Dooku really wants Obi-Wan on his side. So he's like, I'm gonna make Obi-Wan look like a pathetic whelp, so that Dooku knows I'm awesome. I'm his apprentice. I should be the next.
Dad loves me.
Yeah, Dad loves me, exactly.
I'm Dad's favorite.
Dad, you had a question?
Yeah, so okay, just for a second. Leaving the locals and bringing his own troops with him, that's the right choice. That's the right choice in that situation.
The thing is, they held it. The reason it sucked is because remember, this is the first time Anakin had to make a tough choice like that, because all his masters were dead. He had to be the one to make the choice. He's like, what, 17 at the time? Could you imagine a 17-year-old having to look people in the eye and saying, I'm leaving you to be massacred and, struggle-snuggled by the other people because we have to go, because we have to win the war, even though all of you are going to die horribly.
Yeah, I can see it being heart-tearing, but the decision itself is like...
I'm not correct. That's the thing, because he another thing that pissed Anakin off is he went back to the council, was like, guys, I screwed up, and they're like, no, you didn't make the right choice. It sucked. He wanted to be punished for it, and they didn't punish him. That's another thing that happens because he felt like he screwed up. But like Des said, Ki-Adi-Mundi's like, get over it, bitch boy. By the way, I'm your new master now. Start polishing sabers. Yeah. I gotta go fuck my 3 wives.
Actually, no. Part of what he says is like, hey, Obi-Wan, or hey, I know it's really sad you lost Obi-Wan. I know this pain because I lost my 3 wives and my 1 kid that showed up in Star Wars 1999 in the first arc.
Why does he get to have wives?
Because his species is like...
Do you want the actual reason, or do you want the in-universe reason?
Yeah.
The in-universe reason.
The in-universe reason is because his species has a highly small reproductive rate, and only like 1 in every 10 of them are men. So every man is super valuable. That's why they get a harem of women, and they have to impregnate them. And it's like every pregnancy only has like a 1% chance of coming to term.
Yeah, that's why it's a big deal that he has to save his daughter in the first arc of Star Wars 1999.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. So the Jedi are just like, yeah, that's okay. Like species above the Force.
You get the one exception, which, by the way, is a brilliant piece of writing. That the one guy who gets the exception that he gets to have sex is the guy that Anakin now has to have as his master. I really think that's a funny piece of writing.
That is kind of funny. Yeah, that is funny.
Not only it's great because it ties into how they were like. They tie in a lot of stuff that they had already written between episode 1 and 2. And I'm going to get to that as well, because when we move away from Obi-Wan's great arc on whatever Ventress's planet is, then there's the other arc that goes on with, I forget his name. I know he becomes a Sith. Darth Krayt is his name when he becomes a Sith Lord. Look, I'm going to be honest, that's getting into a completely other can of worms that is so far removed from what we're talking
about. The 100 years.
We're not talking about Darth Krayt. We're talking about the character, but we're not going to talk how he becomes Darth Krayt. We're not going to talk about Star Wars Legacy. I just don't remember his name except for Darth Krayt. But Darth Krayt
he's doing his thing.
It's
All you need to know
great.
is the guy who's the sequel of the sequel of the sequel of the sequel, 100 years in the future, is set up here. That's all you
Yes.
got to know. Because they realize you
But
can't kill Palpatine 10 more times.
we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what happens
That's
is...
later,
So we don't have to cover that because I just want to finish up this point here.
The
It's
part
a really
that I do...
good. It's a really good juxtaposition because Anakin wanted to be punished. He felt like he screwed up. He felt like he failed. Was told he did a good job, and his new dad gets to have all the sex he wants. But Anakin is torn between his love for Padme. They were stuck with Ki-Adi-Mundi having kids because previous writers, put that in there before Lucas was explaining to them how the relationships with the Jedi worked at the time they were supposed to be celibate monks. And it was a phenomenal piece of writing. Yeah, because Ki-Adi-Mundi was written in beforehand as
That's
a
so
character.
funny.
And Lucas just kept him because Lucas is like, yeah, it's fine. It's not going to show it on screen. But like the writer's like, shoot, how do we fix this? And and again, this is one of those moments where they took what was a vast mistake in the writing of giving him a wife and kids and turned it into a really interesting story for his thing, an interesting exception, and then gave him the most interesting character to have as exception. Any other Padawan pretty much would have been like, yeah, whatever, my master's got to go to the bone zone. I understand I have to be celibate. But Anakin's the only one who's like, no, bro, he cannot see there's exceptions. He cannot see there's a chance for you. That's just going to make it even worse because it made him view everybody as hypocrites. Like, why can he get the exception? He doesn't even love his wives. I love Padme.
Yeah, I want to get back into what my original thing with Ventress, because then we get Ventress's backstory because during the times that Ventress is doing BDSM to Obi-Wan then escapes through Obi-Wan escapes through using the Force to basically she's sent maggots on him or something like that to weaken him, and he basically gets out, forces him, and then he's like, okay, we're gonna have a revolution to kick Ventress out, and she's like, so then why is the planet like this way? Because
two things real quick. First, Ashred Het is what Jedi Master 66 says. Also, NNN, you're right. We had a whole debate about Padme looking cute or not in the mod chat. The answer is she looks really good in this white outfit.
So the thing with her planet is that
it taught me to be a man.
Eventually explain is that her backstory is that her parents were part of the political system, and then eventually these warlords basically take over, kill her parents, and then a Jedi comes, takes her. They she trains as a Padawan, but eventually they come back to this planet, and then her master dies here. And the first thing she does after Dooku basically, I don't remember if it's when Dooku takes care of her or first thing she does immediately after her master dies, but she becomes the warlord of the planet. She puts everyone in jail, all the warlords. She brings peace to the planet because she's so pissed. And at the end of the story, I don't remember why, but there's she ends up killing the top guy in the the one political prisoner that she kept alive, who I think was the specific one who killed her master and stuff like that.
Alive for nightly beating. By the way, chat, if you want to donate and you don't want to give YouTube any money, don't forget my Ko-Fi is linked below. You could support the channel that way. I will read any Ko-Fi donations on stream as if they were super chats. Save yourself some money. Go to Ko-Fi. And
then not only that, but then the other arc that happens concurrently with this is Ashard Het meets up, because Ashard Het is Windu's previous protege. He in the 1999 series, he's the Padawan that because it's the 1999 series mainly followed Ki-Adi-Mundi running around doing politicking in between literally random Jedi doing random Jedi stuff. And during this, Ashard Het is raised. His father was a major Jedi, and then he's like, I'm done.
Wait, before you go on, I need you to tell me, what does Ashard Het look like? I need a mental image, and since it's Star Wars, it could be anything.
He wears a Tusken mask, and that's what I was going to get up to.
He's a Tusken Raider, kind of.
His father was like, being a Jedi is cool and all, but what if I just gave that up and went into some Tusken,
Yeah, he became a Tusken. So, Des, as interesting as this is, I'm gonna have to break your heart.
Uh-huh.
We have gone over by 20 minutes.
Can I?
You can finish this. Just you're gonna have to give Nebula some kisses later and tomorrow to apologize to him.
Fine. So what happens basically is during the whole arc, Anakin is trapped. He gets separated from Canon Mundi. He gets trapped on a planet with a shard head. He's like, "I hate you. You killed my mother, you son of a!" And like this entire
Anakin's super racist to this Tusken Raider kid. It's great.
Yeah, he hates him. And then during part of it, he starts hallucinating that it's the Tuskens on like Tatooine, and he just starts railing at him. And that's where he takes off the mask and he's like, actually, the Tusken Raiders can't can't reproduce with other humans. My mother was a human captured by the Tusken Raiders. It's like, okay, I guess we needed to know that. So then after that happens, then part of in his crazed rage basically spills the bean to Shard that like, hey, by the way, my mother, like, you killed my mother. And he's like, oh, so the Tuskens killed your mother and you killed them in rage. And the best part of the comic is, at the end, he's like, all right, Ashard, you're okay. And Ashard's like, you know what, I shouldn't be, so mean and whatever, and I'm not going to wear my Tusken mask anymore, because he wore it all the time before. The perfect part of this, and the perfect part of one of my favorite parts in the Republic comic is at the end of the comic, Ashard Head's like, hey, I'm not going to snitch on you, but like, you need to come to your, in your own heart, you need to accept what they did, and you need to get over this. Like, you can't keep this boiling rage. And he's like, the quote, I think, is like, if you were in that situation again, would you do it? And then he walks away. And then Anakin looks up slightly, and he's like, absolutely, I'd do it 100 times. I'll kill them. Perfect. It's so good. It's so, especially since he had this whole comic, or not even comic, I think it might have been a couple comics, but like, he had this whole comic where he bonded with the Tusken guy, and he's still like, nah, I'd do it again. Like 100 times I'd do it again. What do you mean?
Speaking of, Pag, I would love you to read the super chat that Not Alfarius just sent in. Thank you so much for the $20, Not Alfarius.
Unfortunate that Dez requires a nerd wrangler. Everyone laugh at this man.
We're all laughing at you, Dez.
Yeah.
You absolute.
What does he look like under the mask? Before we go, what does he look like under the mask?
He looks like a human with some tats. He's all
really.
tats.
That's it. That's what they look like under the mask. Okay.
That's not what the Tusken Raiders.
So he's not actual.
Like I specifically said, they go into very specific detail to go, oh, by the way, my mother wasn't actually a Tusken Raider. I'm just fully human.
Oh,
they do.
Another thing that I do want to bring up: the comics as they were coming out. This is just another thing that context at the time that was really interesting and really, I guess, upsetting. I'm gonna have to say. At the time, because the way the comics were structured, we thought that the comics were saying that Anakin's mother was Ashard's mother, which implied that his...
No, that's not true. That's not true.
The comics were implying that initially. We thought that. It's not true. Fuck you. I'm telling you what we thought when the comics were coming out. I didn't say it was true. I said we thought that's what was happening because the way the comics released. They're like, oh yeah, my mom was a Tusken. Also, it's the same tribe that you wiped out. We're like, oh, that's what's being implied. They came out the next comic where they, got into details for it. But I'm telling you, at the time, there was a theory. It's like, oh, did Anakin, have it? The
timeline is severely messed up with that. Like the timeline does not work.
Because you know that at the time, sir.
That's not true, because in the first appearance, you see him as a kid in like episode 1, and his mother was not captured by the Tusken Raiders like at episode 1 times. It's at episode 2 that she was captured.
Yeah, we didn't know that this guy was a kid at the time and stuff. There was theory going around. Gosh,
well, I'm saying the theory is stupid. The timeline does not matter.
Well, I'm sorry that the theory was debunked after we got more information. That's kind of how they work, Des.
The theory was debunked as soon as a short hit was introduced.
Yes, this is the guy.
Because the timeline doesn't work.
So this is the guy.
Yeah.
That is him.
He would have had to be... Anakin's mother would have had to been captured by the Tuskens like 8 to 9 years before episode 1 happens, and then gets captured a second time by the exact same tribe, and this time they kill her in episode 2. That's why the timeline doesn't work. It's not because like we found more details. It's because in his first
By the way,
appearance,
this is the guy before he became
9
evil. When
in episode
I have,
1.
I have a better theory than why the time doesn't work, because Lucas doesn't know what he's doing.
No, the timeline doesn't work, because it was never supposed to be his mother. Like, that's a stupid theory that doesn't work because the timeline never would have made it work. If you understand this concept called time, then you understood that there was no way that Anakin's mother was his mother. That's why it...
By the way, this guy also got in a lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan because everybody just shows up on Tatooine and fights Obi-Wan.
Oh no, this was while Obi-Wan he rejoins the Tuskens after Order 66, and then he's like, by the way, I'm a Tusken Raider again. I'm going to kill Anakin's family. And then Obi-Wan's like, no, you're not. And then he's like, yes, I am. And then he loses a lightsaber duel with him and cuts off his arm and unmasks him. And then like the other Tuskens are like, haha, you're not a Tusken. I'm not following you. And then he goes off to become a bounty hunter and then find the Sith Lord stuff. And then, yeah.
Yeah. So are you cutting it there, kid?
I think it's unless there's something else we want to talk about.
There's like 5 other things I want to talk about.
I thought the books are pretty interesting.
We never touched the books. We were never
getting the books. Let's do a little bit. GG can wait a bit. I'll give him some loot tomorrow. He'll be fine.
I think that the books are actually pretty interesting. I wouldn't say they're like fantastic. The prose isn't the best. And the action is pretty good, but it's not like fantastic. But it does have some interesting ideas that can't be really accomplished in any other setting but one like this one, which is this whole like group of clones kind of discovering like whether or not they're human or whether or not they have souls and any of that. And I just think it's a really kind of fascinating concept for them to have gone for in a book, especially like a Star Wars book. I wasn't expecting it to be like, as good as it was on a conceptual level. So I was pleasantly surprised.
That's part of that book series, the Republic Commando stuff. It is completely that. I think it's that part is very well done, especially with them, finding a culture and a family, and what does it mean to be family, and like you said, does this unit have a soul? But like it's a flesh unit. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that it starts after their training. Like you get to see them talk about and reference their training and how just utterly monstrous the Kaminoans were. But you don't ever like see that, which I think is a good choice for the novels.
I think it helps reinforce it because you can. It's just there's several things with the stories that it's better for you to let the audience think than it is to show a probably more obvious example is in the Elder Scrolls setting. What happened to the dwarves? No answer is good. No answer is going to be as interesting as me wondering. And the same thing with the training arc that these guys went through. I can imagine things worse than you could write, and it'll sit in my head better because the details don't matter. It doesn't actually matter every detail. A couple details matter because we need to have, use it for storytelling perspective. But you don't need to go into the nitty-gritty for everything. And I think that's a great example of it.
Yeah, you just know that it was extremely harsh and that the Kaminoans were just absolutely heartless. Like, disposing of, like, batches of thousands of clones at a time because a very few of them were defective. And defective being, like, less than 20/20 vision, slightly. Which they could augment and make better with their helmets, but, that's the Kaminoans, they don't deliver a bad product. They only deliver a good product. And so all of these clones are put through...
99% is not 100%.
Exactly, and that's what they think. And like any of them that like behave they do everything in their power to strip out the individual in these men from the moment they are decanted in their tanks away from a mother.
Unless they're commando troopers, then they have individuality.
Well, I mean, even them they tried to strip them. Yeah, they tried to strip the commandos too. They did a lot less to the like ARC troopers. Like those guys are described as pure Django. Like they're pretty much just straight up Django Fett. Whereas the commando troopers are a little bit more modified to be in line with the clones, and the regular ones are pretty thoroughly modified. And it also has an interesting sort of like hierarchy of dudes that you get introduced to that without reading the books, you don't get as much as. Like I don't know if they went into that much in any of the shows.
The Commandos not so much, but the hierarchy of what the clone structure is. Again, the old stuff really went into that well because the clones were both more and less people in the original stuff.
If you want to get some more to clone stuff, you have to play Republic Commando, the video game. That actually goes really into like the whole clones and aspect of it. So the clone troopers are actually they're brothers, but they're also individuals, and that's what makes them strength.
Well, not only that, I think Star Wars Republic.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Star Wars Republic also goes into really good of like a bit of how the clones, see themselves.
And also,
like that. Like there's a really good arc with Battlefront.
And, like the regular clones, like have like they see like the commando troopers, like like you're the special breed, like you're the higher mighty. They have like a jealousy of them because they have better and superior training as opposed to just be soldiers running into the meat grinder.
I think one of the best comics that shows off or best pieces of media in Star Wars that shows off like the average clone trooper, like how their thinking is Star Wars Republic with the comic where Ayla Secura works with Quinlan Voss while he's working for Dooku. And what's the planet where all the Noghri are? It's that planet.
It's Noghri Prime, isn't it?
I don't remember what the planet's called.
No, Noghri. That planet's interesting.
It's that planet because it's literally because they're trying to find something that from where they're showing off from going to Heir to the Empire why the Noghri planet is polluted. So it's Ayla Secura and Quinlan Voss working together, and Bly's like, he's a Sith, we gotta kill him. And he's like, no, it's more complicated than that because of course Ayla's Quinlan Voss's Padawan. And then not only that. The Order 66 comic where Quinlan is it's complicated. I don't want to get into we can't get into it, but Quinlan Voss is back on the Jedi side, and then Quinlan Voss is like, okay, it's the Order 66 where he gets blasted and then survives and then has to kill the clone, and the clone's like, I hate you, I want to kill you, I hate you. It's really good.
Yeah.
This whole series is just everything. It's fantastic. This is the best in the height of Star Wars, and it's very, very unfortunate that because the movies were not as good as the original ones, they are completely shit down into just it's basically drags everything down. The movies are not that bad. They're fine movies, at worst. But like,
well, we didn't know how far rock bottom was.
Well, no, just even if you watch them, like people don't understand how fucking movies work. I swear to God,
there's a lot of problems with them that could have been corrected. But the thing is, that
like if you're actually ranking them,
he was surrounded by yes men. No one challenged him.
They're like
he was challenged constantly on the original tape.
Well, not just that. Again, they're like 6 or 7s out of 10. They're not bad. They're just like they're bad for Star Wars films. Because they're like there are some films that are just straight up bad. Like people haven't watched enough garbage to know what actually horrible movies are. I swear. There's all these people are just inundated with watching the best of the best, so that so their rankings go really high up at the top. Once you've like actually
the best quotation marks, whatever's told them to be the best, because they like I can tell you about
the current Marvel slop. Like I hate it, but so much of the current Marvel slop is still just acceptable media compared to some of the actual garbage.
Turns your brain on. Like, oh, look at my brain getting my dopamine's getting shot.
Yeah, and it's just like it's just like fine. It's just
there's always the room.
Well, the room's got you can get some ironic enjoyment out of it, but just I'm telling you. There's go watch Manos: The Hands of Fate. That movie made me want to literally kill myself. Like, I wanted to go on the sewer slide. It was horrible. I'm telling you. That and it's the one that's 22 Bordeaux Street, the 4-hour one, the French one.
They're all French. That doesn't narrow it down.
You get there's a lot that's like 95% of French films are pretty.
That's what I mean. Like he's like the French one.
It's Genie Del Monde. 23 Quai du Commerce, 1080 Brussels.
Don't
that
summon
film.
gay
I
liar.
want
You're gonna summon
that.
them.
If you want to prove that we should just kill all French people, just watch that movie once. It is the most miserable, slow experience of your life. It's 4 hours, and it feels like 4 years.
So we continuing the rest of the Clone Wars next week?
God, I wish we would. I know we're not, but I kind of wish we would.
We could talk about it a little bit as we go into episode 3, because
that's a horrible idea. That's a horrible idea. We're not
because the week after that's the wrap up, so we can continue it throughout the whole thing. We can go as much as we want.
We are not going to. If we get on Clone Wars, you're going to have to stop me again.
We're already through most of the major stuff that we want to talk about anyway. The only thing we didn't talk about today.
Des wants to tell us the plot of another 17 comics. So
that's not true. I actually want to just go over the.
Des has a PowerPoint presentation of how bad the comics really are.
I'm going to kill you. The comic.
By the way,
Star Wars
Alex Gomez, I hope you're in chat. Shaggy's on screen now.
There's so much bad. There is quite a bit of bad Star Wars comics. Even the ninth Star Wars 1999 is like average to bad. But Star Wars Republic is peak. And then Dark Times came out, and it was mostly peak. And then it's so good. I love those comics. I own all of them.
The Star Wars Extended Universe is 80% trash, about 10% good, 5% great, and 2.5% awesome.
I don't know. There is a lot of bad books.
Like I said, 80% of it's just garbage and trash. It's like, oh, guys, fan
comics. I think the comics, to be honest, just because there wasn't too many comics.
The comics have a bit of a higher
really
standard
bad period. I lied. I'm sorry.
It's more money to have a comic than it is to write a book, because you have.
I'm not thinking about the Marvel comics. There is a lot of bad Marvel comics.
Well, it's because Marvel is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they just give the money.
No. This was like in the '60s. This was.
Okay, they were a multi-million-dollar company back then, which is equivalent to inflation billions. So they were still rich.
It doesn't matter. The Marvel comics weren't bad yet. This was when they were writing good Marvel comics in the '70s. This was peak Spider-Man.
They were still bad in the '70s. That it was very rare. It's not like it's just bad constantly now.
Calm down. It's okay.
We'll
talk about Star Wars. Yeah, it is Shaggy. I believe his name is Jedi Padawan Shaggy. If I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Shaggy.
Yep.
Yeah.
SHAG.
Anyways, I think we just need to talk about the Grievous fight and the entire end section with Anakin. That's the two main things I want to touch on, because I think those are
two. Do that next week. That's great. Then we'll leave to episode 3 and we'll sum up. By the way, next week, I think that you have to watch episode 3, chat, if you want to, understand it. There's a chance that if I could find an audiobook of it, we might cover the Revenge of the Sith novelization. If not, we might come back to that late next year or something, because that novelization does an incredible amount of work to add details.
If I have time to read, I'll probably bring. That's not true. Unless we want to completely ban that topic, I will be bringing it up. I haven't read it in a couple years, but there's so many small details that I still remember, because it's such good expand.
The novelization is, to me, the proof of the rumor about the 4-hour cut. It's the proof right there.
It feels like
so much stuff in there.
It's right there. It's right there, and it perfectly develops so much stuff. Kid, you're gonna. I hate you. You make me want to freaking talk another 5 hours about this. You can't bring.
Yeah, we should just. We'll have enough to talk about
talking about Star Wars. He's not invited.
2 more weeks of this, dude. We got Revenge of the Sith next week, and then
I want more, and I know I shouldn't. Okay.
He just wants to have a Star Wars podcast.
Did I not say? I did perfectly open with. My obsession before history was Star Wars.
Well, hey, I want to say to NNN, we're not going to do a whole nother month of this. Don't worry. It's just going to be the next 3 weeks, essentially. Des is far too powerful. I agree. I'll tell you what, NNN. If you send me $100, I will live stream killing Des for you. And with that, we're going to close out today. If you like some of the opinions that we had, and you want to read a good story, you can check the description to go check out Lex Henderson's books, linked below. Yeah. It's Liftoff, Interstellar Garbage Men. It's a fun sci-fi adventure with a pig. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that subject. I don't want to spoil any further. If you like Star Wars, you probably will like it, but not for the reasons that you're thinking.
Read Star Wars Republic. Great comic.
after you read Interstellar Garbage Man.
Yeah,
Sure.
you should
And
go
with
read my
chat,
book. It's good.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to have you all around. The Tarask video is coming along well. I'm in the editing phase of it. And while I'm working on that, I have another small little side series I have developed that you guys are definitely gonna like. Oh yes. I'm sorry, NNN. I'll do the first thing. With that, we're gonna shout out Tokyo Frenzy again. I'll post his link in the chat once more. You can go check out his newest music video. Friend of the channel. Or friend of the channel.
I'm
Go
sorry.
check him out below. And thank you so much, chat. We'll talk to you guys later.